Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Ponder on That with Saffron King show. I'm the host. My name is Saffron King, and today we're with my very special guest, a good friend, Devon Johnson, who is an actor and a writer. Devon, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Honestly, what a lovely
Oh,
introduction. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for being willing to be
Anytime.
recorded. So, Devon, let's just jump straight into it. So, where did your passion for acting and writing come from?
Oh, so for me, it's definitely been there since childhood. Watching soaps, imagining, dreaming a lot of the time because I'm the youngest of many children, and I spent a lot of time on my own as a child because the sibling before me is 7 years older. So like growing up, even though I had other siblings, I was like an only child, so a lot of like time to make believe and to dream. You could just call me the Black Tracy Beaker.
Wow,
Like,
I love that.
That's what I was like just lots of a very vivid imagination. And my mum used to be like, "You're crazy, you're mad," because like I just tell these mad stories, and they always had like really big elaborate plots and characters, and she's like, how did you think of all this? But you know, I was just seeing a lot of content on television, and it just inspired me. But it was definitely the soaps, mainly EastEnders, where that was like, okay, I want to act. I love the storytelling, the characters, the world. It was relatable, but also it seemed over there, if that makes it. Even though it was relatable, like growing up in London, I mean, like there's parallels. It still seemed like over there, so enough to feel seen, but also enough to be intrigued. If that makes sense. So that just led to like more dreaming and more playing, and then when I play with my toys, I recreate storylines, and yeah. But I was 6 when I was like, I want to act, and then I would say it's mainly the last, because I started writing properly about 6 years ago.
Okay.
Like taking it seriously and obviously getting paid for it and stuff about 6 years ago when I decided, okay, I want to explore this side of my creativity. But it's in the last couple of years that I realized that for me it's all been a form of storytelling, whether it's me in front of the camera, behind, adjacent, like whichever position. It's forms of storytelling, but the seed was definitely planted from being that 6-year-old boy watching EastEnders or any of the other soaps.
That's amazing. That's a beauty. Thank you for sharing that, because
Yes.
sometimes we don't realize that our childhood actually does connect to our dreams a lot of the time, you know. And it's powerful how you said, you know, you had all these siblings, but obviously because you spent a lot of time alone, that's where you got into your craft. And you know, I'm similar to yourself. I'm an only child, and I used to write and, you know, make up stories in my head, but you just think that dream is too far, like it's far to even achieve.
100%.
Or like, it maybe it will never happen.
There's no one around you doing it as well, so
exactly.
that's how I know that it was always meant to be, because there was no one being like, you need to do it like this, or like there was no pathway to guide me towards how to do it. It just was innate. It was there. So that's why I'm like, okay, no, it is meant to be. And I believe that every single person has their thing.
Yes.
Your job is to find it.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Luckily for me, I found it quite early, and I spent my life work basically chasing it. But yeah, I feel like also as well, like, you know, in childhood there was a lot of, is turbulence the right word? There was a lot of madness happening around me as well. Like in like the family, I have many like siblings that we don't have the same mum, so that in itself created a lot of dynamics. There was a lot of change in. I was still meeting like siblings up until I was like 10, 11 years old. Be like, oh, this is your brother. I was like, okay, hi. Do you know what I mean?
Like
This is
it's
your
just a
sister.
friend.
Literally.
Yeah.
In soaps, when all of a sudden, miraculously, a family member pops up and everyone's like,
This
oh
is
yes,
the
you've known your
thing.
whole lives. But obviously, for me, I remember one of my brothers I met when I was 10, and I was like,
Wow.
and so, well, he was around when I was little, but I don't remember him. And he popped up when I was 10 with like a whole family, 2 kids, partner. And I remember the day they were hiding in the living room from my dad. They wanted to surprise him because they'd lost touch, and he'd moved about, and then they'd reconnected. And I remember these people just standing in the living room, bare hiding around the corner, and I'm looking at them like, who are these people? My mum was like, oh my gosh, because obviously she remembers them, but I don't remember them. I was like maybe like 1 or 2 when he left, so I don't remember him. So I'm standing there like, who are these people? people. What's going on?
Wow. And do you see the thing is, in watching soaps, we're seeing, oh, this is all drama. Is this even realistic?
Yeah.
People don't realise it's coming from someone's own personal story.
So that's what, for me, that's why all these storytellings, it was also like escapism as well. And I guess like a protective mechanism. And it was a way for me to process the world that was happening around me, because there was so much madness that was happening in real life that I was just like, oh, okay, how do I deal with this? And, I kind of grew up in a very 1950s household. I had older parents. My mum was 39 when she had me. My dad was in his 50s and I'm 21.
Yes, 21 and looking good.
but I had like older, parents. They'd already kind of had their kids and been there, done that, and then along pops me. But I always say they stop at perfection. So, which winds my sister out. She's like, oh, whatever. But so we grew up in that dynamic. So children were kind of seen and not heard. So you couldn't really ask questions. Do you know what I mean? So that was my way of processing with my stories and my toys, and that's how I was able to kind of make sense of the world that I was in. And
it's also in a sense of, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you taking back that control as well, because you're able to then control that world 100%. That you are now experiencing.
And if things didn't go the way I wanted it to go, I can make it the way I wanted it to be.
Absolutely.
In my make-believe.
Would you say your art, so your acting and writing, would you say it's a form of therapy as 100%.
Well? 100%. It's very cathartic. Especially when I wrote songs. I wrote some songs about some people that did not deserve to have songs written about them, and they will never see the light of day. Oh my gosh! There was one in particular I wrote at uni, and we had this festival called the Face Fest, and you could it was the end of the year, and you could perform and sing your songs and that. I sang this song about this one person, and I was like, it's so embarrassing, and you look back at the person, you're like, really?
Did I?
Literally,
did I go there? Did I go there? Yeah.
I walked over this person writing songs. I was like, makes me sick. But it was a way of definitely processing a lot of things. Even recently, journaling is something that's relatively new to me.
Yes.
And a few weeks ago, I just couldn't sleep one night, and I got up and just started a stream of consciousness, and all the stuff was just coming out. And that's, for me, that's what it was. It was my way of processing and understanding. Because sometimes talking is good, but sometimes I feel like people don't always get it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if I write it on the page, maybe not in the moment, it connects, but later on I can reflect and sometimes objectively reflect on what I've put on the page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's powerful. That is powerful, Devon. Yeah. And it's very healthy as well, because I think sometimes we live in a society where we lean on people so much. I'm not saying that's not good, because you need people around you who can hold you up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's not putting too much on people. So you journaling and putting, you're using your gift, to also be a part of your healing as well.
100%, especially if you don't always understand certain things. Recently I've been going through some things where I have certain feelings or certain thoughts about certain things, but I'm not 100% sure what it means myself. So now how can I then relay that to somebody else if I myself don't quite understand? Do you know what I mean? So that's my way of processing and making sense. And then I'm not saying I'm going to have all the answers, but at least if I have more of a handle of what it means, then if I'm coming, say, to you, it will make more sense.
Absolutely. If I need your help in a particular area that you've already gone through, you've got the tools then to give to me, right?
100%.
Rather than if you don't, it's the blind leading the blind, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's beautiful. Honestly, thank you.
There is.
So has your acting made you a better writer? And has your writing made you a better actor?
Yes, to both, I would say. It's funny, I was listening to a podcast recently with Seth Rogen, and so he writes a lot of stuff that he's in, which is the dream. And everyone keeps saying, "Oh, just write yourself into it." I'm like, okay, cool. But he spoke about that, in the sense of he comes at acting from a different perspective because he's a writer, so he knows what he needs to do in order to tell the story and move it forward and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then on the flip side, when you're writing, you know characters, you know how to embody character, you know how a character's going to speak or how they should speak or how they should move, the choreography of the scene, you know it. So it helps when writing, because it's almost like you visualize the whole thing. where some writers don't always have that foresight. And I've seen it in real life where actors will be doing a scene and there's way too much happening, whether it's dialogue or choreography, and the actors are tripping up because it doesn't feel natural, because one, you just don't talk like that.
And the thing is, on set, yes, obviously you write it and you write it to happen to then manifest on set. But on set and the writing life, it's like they both need to connect. And sometimes when those worlds are too separate, on set it just, things start to mess up. And you know, when you're acting, it's like, you know, does this actually make sense? Like, why am I motivated to do this? This doesn't make sense when someone just said this to me. Obviously, the writer's just writing it. Not just, but the writer's writing it. So if they don't have any kind of connection to the on-set world, I think it can be a bit more trickier to kind
100%.
of get that motivation. And then obviously, because when people watch things, people can tell if it reflects reality or not, you know? And I think, even me being a viewer, I like to watch things that I can relate to. And if it's something where I'm like, this seems a bit too, like, either far-fetched or a bit off, I just disconnect from it.
And you know it as well, because this is the thing, audiences are very savvy.
Yes.
I feel like we've definitely, when it comes to like what's out there to see, we've been spoiled.
We have.
So we're not putting up with this half-hearted nonsense, like, because we know TV, we know what we like to see.
And we've got a lot of options now.
So many
Apple,
options.
Netflix.
So you need to be fighting and vying for people's attention.
Yeah.
And if you're not hitting it, what's going to change that dial?
Yeah.
Do you know what I
mean? Exactly. Wow. No, thank you, Devon.
Right.
So what would you say has helped you to sustain your career in this industry, in this fast-growing creative industry of the TV/film world?
I don't have a choice. I don't. I always say it's a joke that I make, but it's the truth. I didn't choose a creative life; it chose me. That's my bottom line. Yeah, period.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't think of myself doing anything else. I've tried. I tried to do the 9 to 5. I tried to be the teacher, and I enjoyed those things, but it never gave me fulfillment like this does. And like, for me, it's, you know, I have to know how it ends, whatever that looks like. I have to give it my all.
Your all.
I can't do anything else. And yeah, I know it's 95% unemployment. I know that it's highly oversubscribed, and that it's tough, and that it doesn't really care about nobody, and that it's a business first and foremost. Yeah, I know those things, but at the same time, people are still winning. Exactly. People are still thriving. People are still making like boss moves.
Exactly.
And it's still happening, you know, whilst all that negative stuff is happening too. So depending on whether your glass is half full or half empty will determine what side of that you sit on.
Absolutely.
But it's my calling, and like I said, I'm grateful that I've always known that from a young child.
That's a blessing.
It is, because there's people my age and bigger who don't
know.
I don't want to do
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But like I said, your job is to go and discover it. So I used to work in retail many moons ago when I was doing my undergrad, and I used to work 3 days a week. The other 4 days I was doing, do you know how many work experience I did in all different companies just to discover it? I did one at a magazine company. I was like,
my gosh.
maybe journalism. I tried to do running. I was like, absolutely not. 14 hour days for £7 an hour. Are you all right? No, thank you. So like, I was like, nah. But I tried. And through all of those experiences, I was able to narrow and refine until I got to where I wanted to get to. And obviously it's a journey. It's not done. Do you know what I mean? I've still got way more to go. I'm only just like...
You've got so much more to achieve on top of
100%.
what he's already achieved. Okay. We haven't even got into it yet. And you know what, Devon, you know what always like touches me when we always have those conversations about like, you know, yes, this industry is, you know, it's good to work in, and yes, it is hard, but it's like, it's having that perseverance and to keep going. Like me and you always joke about, you know, obviously, yes, it does have a bit of glam to this industry, but that's not what's going to get you
It's a very small
further.
part of it, isn't it?
It's a very small part. And like we said, you don't have a choice. Like, you've tried different avenues, but you knew that the one thing calling you back was this.
Yeah.
Acting, writing.
100%.
Creativity.
And people will say to you, oh, should you not, you know, do something else? And I've obviously come to learn that as much as I believe that they care about me, it's also, I guess, like fear and obviously projection.
Yes.
I've had to learn as well.
Exactly.
So
it's true.
yeah,
it's true, because I mean, some advice that other people can give, it's not that they're bad people or they're bad mind, as we like to say, Jamaicans like to say, but actually sometimes it's their own fears coming through. Like, I know I've given advice to people based on my own fears, not because I've wanted bad for them, but it's because I've put myself in a box, and then I'm just like, I want to protect that person, but actually I have no right to shield them. Exactly.
So it makes sense to me. But once you understand that, you don't harbour resentment or...
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you understand more.
Yeah.
Especially when I was growing up and people would... I mean, some people were just bad mind. Let's just call it...
You know what? It's true.
Some people really
Watch out for those people.
Do you know what I mean? Like, for the most part, it was fear and, like, lack of understanding. Especially, like, in my own family. Like, my dad, for example, you know, he came to this country in 1962. As he always says, my one little suitcase. And he just repopulated the whole of the United Kingdom. Nonsense.
I know, because... Did you tell everyone how much siblings you have?
Let's just say Dad was a busy man.
Very busy.
He had 20 kids.
20 kids?
Yeah.
Wow.
20 kids.
Imagine, remember in primary school you had a classroom of 30 people.
Hey.
So your dad just needed 10 more kids.
So
wow. You know, 10 is a lot, but you know what I mean?
The whole classroom.
He could have had a classroom, because some classrooms probably would have had 15 to 20.
Imagine? But it's right for men, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
You ain't got to nothing.
Yeah.
As my dad says, he only deals with kids when they can tell them what they want. So basically, when they're like 8 and they don't need you.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Wow.
So no nappies, no night feeds. He ain't doing that.
I've given you everything now.
Literally.
Go for peace
but
out.
like, he came here back in, the 60s, kind of last phase, like Windrush. And, he experienced a lot of like racism and, hardships. And for him, I mean, he made it in his, where he's from, in his little district in, Ulster Spring in Jamaica. He's made it. He wanted to drive lorries. He came, he did that. That was his career. He enjoyed it. He did what he wanted to do. He got out of the situation that seemed impossible and he made a life. So for him, when he hears about all these big elaborate things that seem so way over there, he can't always, or at the time he couldn't always comprehend what that meant, because he's like, well, I've never seen that. What does that mean? Yeah.
One thing you said, which has really touched me, is that you said he did something that was deemed impossible, but obviously he made it possible. So that's incredible.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean?
His dad was a farmer, and his father before him a farmer. They were all farmers, and his dad wanted him to inherit the land and farm. And he's like, I don't care about the crops and your cattle. I want to drive trucks. And his dad just laughed at him and was like, it's not going to happen. But he made it happen.
He made it happen. That's fantastic. So guys, if you've got a dream, no matter how, if your family, if no one else has done it, you just keep, chasing it, keep going, And Devon, so what kind of stories would you say impact your heart?
Oh, I mean, I like stories by people that you don't usually hear stories about. It's like marginalized groups, stories of communities that I've not really had the opportunity to, I guess, get to know on a deeper level. Stories by people who, for want of a better word, have been rendered voiceless. Like, I was listening to this girl that I follow on Instagram, and she like campaigns like against like FGM, and just like when you hear like her story, I'm just like, whoa. Again, something that I don't know anyone personally who's experienced that. And when you hear like these people who are like your age mates who have been going through stuff like that, you're just like, huh? Like, because it just seems so far away, but it really wasn't. This is happening, do you know what I mean? Sometimes on your own doorstep.
Yeah, it's true. You don't know.
Which is mad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So when I hear that, it just broadens the horizons even further. It's like, whoa, there really is a whole world. Obviously, you know that, but when you're the star to your movie. You're just moving through life.
Exactly. You're the main character in your story.
So sometimes you don't look like, you don't look right. You're just tunnel visioned. And then it's only when you take a moment, you're like, wow, there's all these other amazing, great stories out there. By these people who otherwise don't always get a look in. So those are stories that I want to hear and see.
No, that's beautiful. And it's similar to what I said to you earlier, like, I personally love stories that I can relate to, and I not only what I can relate to, but stuff that I didn't know about before. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
you
Like
want
you
to
said,
be
you know what I mean?
educated and
It's like an open door to a world you would never have
100%.
discovered unless you watch that film. Do you know what I
100%. And that's what
mean?
I think the great thing is about television, film, theatre in particular, especially because you're in the live.
Yes,
Like,
and
it's
you're with it.
transformative. You always leave those spaces different than when you stepped in. And that's what I love about the arts. I think only the arts can have that impact on people where it can literally change your whole thought process and your whole outlook on life.
That's amazing. That's amazing you said that, because actually even recently Michael B. Jordan, he said, because he recently released the Creed 3 film, and he said he looks forward to when people come and watch the film, like they come in and they leave changed to how they came in. So it's not, for him, it's not just about the film, but it's about how he leaves people feeling
And experiences.
and experiences.
And the thing is, one thing I love about the arts is that you can mean one thing by doing something. For example, if I write a song, like I might think one thing by it, but when someone else hears it, they're going to have a complete different perception and experience. So you're almost creating like multiple experiences from one experience.
Exactly.
And I love that because no two experiences are the same.
Even if you're writing about the exact same kind of themes, or even the same theme,
it's interpretation.
It's still different.
And I love that about the arts because it's always different. And every single time I write either a screenplay, I take on a character, I write a song, it's always different. It's never the same. And that's why it never gets boring.
Absolutely.
Because everyone's like, but you've been doing this for me when you're little. I'm like, yeah, but it never changes. Like, it changes all the time, sorry.
No two days are the same in this
No.
creative industry, in the film industry,
And that's
TV.
why it's exciting.
Yeah.
And also, when you're moving through life, I'm a different person today as I was, 2 years ago and 2 years before that. So then that experience also changes the experience.
Absolutely.
So it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing.
Absolutely.
Things that I was singing about when I was 19, I'm not singing about now
Yeah.
at 21. Do you know what I mean?
2 years after.
Yeah,
You
do
know?
you know what I mean? It's the longest 2 years ever, but it's still 2 years. What do you mean? What do you know what I mean?
Oh, well, thank you, Devon. And guys, I completely forgot, but actually I didn't forget really, but
Hello?
Devon, you was a storyliner on EastEnders. That's how me and him met.
Yes.
So Devon, tell us about your most favourite, or not your most favourite, but one of your favourite storylines that you wrote for EastEnders.
So my favourite one was... my last one was definitely my favourite one.
Okay.
So the
Suki, and was it Ranveer story? Yeah.
So the Suki Ranveer story.
The reveal.
When she killed him.
Yes. Oh yeah.
She killed him.
Yeah.
She killed him.
Yeah.
And obviously Ravi finished the job.
Yes.
That was my last storylines that I wrote back in March of 22.
Wow. Is it that? Oh my
And it didn't
gosh.
air until August, so it's like almost 6 months ahead. And our job is always looking forward.
Because so we'll think about Christmas in like
June. I remember being at Emmerdale
Yeah.
and we was fully playing Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Oh my
in
gosh.
hot summer June because the block was Christmas and it was so like trippy in my head, and we had to get into like mince pies and Brussels sprouts and think like that because we was writing all those stories. But yeah, that's why it's funny, like, no beef, because obviously we've got to work together.
Oh, yeah.
But the script department, when the script department be like, so what happened in da-da-da-da? I'm like, bruv, we are over here. And you are taking us back here. Like, so sometimes, like, cognitively, I'm like, because once I publish that doc, I don't know, it's gone. We're moving forward. But that was my last storylines, and I was gifted that big storyline. And obviously, big set two piece of, like, brown people. Can we get an amen for that one? Do you know what I mean? Like front and center the whole week. And I was like, and I got to write that week of episodes, and I was so blessed to have that storyline. And
it's a huge achievement
Thank
and
you.
a blessing, because even just to watch those characters, and they did it so phenomenally as well. Like they were
really
amazing. Like it was just so believable. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So you did an amazing job.
Thank you very much. But you get to see that they get to show what they can do.
What would you say the hardest thing was about storyline in those episodes?
I think because there was obviously like I don't know if anyone's seen it, but he basically tries to rape her. He propositions her for a business deal, he's like, I'll give you this if you sleep with me, which is already peak in itself. And then when she refuses, he tries to attack her, and that's why she ends up killing him. So obviously getting into the, I guess, the psychology of that was quite hard to understand, because obviously my job, same as when you're acting as well, your job is not to judge. You have to find some level of understanding, even if it's the most heinous of crimes, in order for you to, because then I think for the moment you judge, you're not in it, you're on the periphery, and we have to be in it in order to make it as impactful as possible. Same as when you're playing those sorts of characters as well, you know, they are disgusting, unfortunately, disgusting people live in this world, and for you to portray them authentically, because not just to you know, it's not just about entertainment, it's also to educate and to show people, especially like stories like coercive control and things. No, I think soap is really good at commenting on social issues that are happening right now, because of the nature in which they're shot. Like they're shot like what, 6 to 8 weeks before they're shown, whereas other programs take months, if not years development before it comes out.
Exactly.
So it's a whole different thing. So I feel like we have a duty to also, you know, not only portray these things, but also to be able to educate people and show them what's what. So the psychology of those characters, it was hard trying to get into it, obviously making it something that can go at pre-watershed. And still be entertaining as well. Because, you know, what do people used to call EastEnders? The East End lames.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that.
I mean? So it's like, you don't want to, it's not, people are like, oh, it's always like doom and gloom. So it's still got to be entertaining, but educating as well, and informative, which I guess wasn't not the ethos of the BBC.
Yes. It is. Because even when we had to do training, that is the ethos.
So, you know, it's keeping in mind those things, but also making it relevant.
Absolutely.
As well.
Absolutely.
Like, there's so many things to hit when you're writing on one of these shows, because, okay, yeah, it's not like back in the days, you know, Den serving Angie divorce papers on Boxing Day and getting, 20 plus million views. Well, not in those days, but it's still a very influential show.
Absolutely.
And you still have a duty of care
to
your
people.
audience. So you have to always bear that in mind when you're writing.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot to remember.
Yeah, there's a lot to juggle. People just think, oh yeah, just write this and, you know, that's it. But there's a lot of things that you're juggling, that you're having to think about, and you're also thinking about the characters as well. That actors have personalities, so they actually know their characters as well.
100%.
You know, so they're like, would I really say this? Would this happen? Or do you know what I mean?
And sometimes we get it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's okay.
We've seen it in the past. Sometimes we get it wrong, because, you know, we sit with a storyline for X amount of time and we only have it in and amongst ourselves in terms of like conferences and meetings. But sometimes when you give things out to the wider world, it takes on a life of its own, and you can't control that.
Exactly.
But we learn from those things.
We learn from it. Yeah, you know? Exactly. And I think as long as we learn from it, you know, it's good when you're learning, like nothing's ever going to be 100% perfect,
100%.
you know.
And it wasn't Maya Angelou, when you know better, you do better.
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't even know it was Maya Angelou. But, so Devon, more personally to do with you, how have you persevered through your successes while simultaneously experiencing pain?
Oh, I feel like, not to go Mary J. Blige, you know, but like I feel it helps me to process my pain, because I have the ability to communicate via the arts. It helps to put a lot of my pain and stuff that I've gone through into perspective, and to understand where things have come from or why I've been experiencing certain things, which is always useful. Some people don't have outlets and they just stay with it all bottled up. I'm lucky that, well, I feel like I'm a good communicator, so I can talk about it. Thank you very much. But also as well, like I can write about it, or I can go and act it out, or I can sing until my lungs give way. Do you know what I mean? Like I can do things, or I can go and dance like a crazy person and physically move my body and you know, take on whatever's happening internally and put it externally. So I have those outlets, and it's always been there for me, like especially like music, because you know, music's such an emotive thing. So like songs and like writing songs and you know, it just makes you feel better.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. It can literally lift up your mood. Like, you could be having a
100%.
bad day, and the type of music you listen to can really encourage you.
But even there's days when you're not feeling great and you just want to be sad.
Yeah.
There's days
It's true. There's songs that can help you maneuver through that, or just sit.
And I will put on that Adele. Adele's got one song, on 21 called One and Only.
Oh, I haven't listened to that.
That song, when I'm in like the depths of heartbreak, and she's like, I dare you to let me be your one and only. I promise I'll be worth it. Excuse me.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, feeling it. Like,
and your heart's like, yeah.
I'm like, so come on and give me the chance. I'm like, yes, I'm feeling it. Aww. I remember there was this, you know, you have no business listening to certain songs. Keisha Cole, that love song.
Which one?
Love.
Oh yeah, that's like back in the day. Yeah. And she like got, I know. You did it great though.
I'm looking at the window, I'm like crying over what? What do you know at 14? But in the time I was like, yes, Keisha, you're speaking my language.
Honestly, when I was younger, I listened to Keisha Cole. And obviously she's talented, she's brilliant, I love her. But like when at the tender age, being in primary school, I thought I'd experienced certain things that 100%. I had never experienced. But that's how good she is of a storyteller, because actually thinking about it,
sorry.
No, don't worry. Thinking about it, a good storyteller is able to allow people to get into the shoes of the character or of the music that they're telling, you know. So don't worry, Devon. So the fact that, and actually I'm not the only person who said that about Keisha Cole's music, so the fact that she's made people like, or encourage people to actually think they've gone through that, it shows how emotive her songs are.
That's
and how the power of her storytelling.
Do you know what I mean? And that's why I'm like, oh
yeah, I know. It's like, wow, I can feel the pain, you know. When you were younger, Devon, like you lost your beautiful mom, how did losing your mom impact your life?
It's such a weird one, because like I think now I've been on this planet longer without my mum than I was with her, because I was 13 when mum passed. And it's weird, because I feel like all the work she put in that short time, the 13 years, has definitely made me the man that I am today. But I feel like at the time there was so many like confused feelings. Again, going back to that whole, you know, children seen and not heard, I wasn't really asked a lot of like, how do you feel about this? What's going on with you? It was, this is what's happening. Everyone was very factual. Like, so this is what's happening, this is how we're proceeding, so on and so forth. There wasn't like a dialogue to discuss. But I feel like kids are very resilient, but at the same time, oh my gosh, sorry. Kids are very resilient, but subconsciously, it's what you take in that you don't account for until later on.
Later on, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As an adult, I've been able to, I guess, understand things a lot more. But yeah, it's one of those ones where it just changes your whole world and your whole perception on the world. I remember the moment I heard that she passed, I couldn't see life beyond that point. It didn't make sense, because obviously your parents, your constant, people have been there forever in your world.
And the woman who carried you as well.
So you don't know any different.
Yeah.
So now you're telling me I have to continue this thing called life, but the person that's always been there? What do you mean? How does that work? Do you know what I mean? Okay, yeah, my dad's there, but still, I had a mum and a dad.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? And I just remember just feeling very numb for a long time, and just not understanding what had happened. Obviously, like, my mum was sick, so I knew that she wasn't well, but we didn't know that she was going to die when she died. From getting sick to dying, it was like 2 years, and she died on a Wednesday, and I remember the Sunday we were told that she might have another 2 years.
Okay.
Because they were like, all the treatments they were trying, they said that, you know, again, how we thought at the time, she wasn't responding well to them, but gonna try one more thing. If it works, 2 years. So we're all thinking 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. As hard as it was, like a bitter pill to swallow, but like 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, let's focus on that. And then 3 days later, she died, and it was like, what?
That was a big shock. Yeah.
Big shock. Big shock. And yeah, I feel like, you see, my teenage years were just filled with um, lots of confusion, because it's a very turbulent time, I think, in one's life. Anyways, just being a teenager, going through puberty,
exactly, yeah,
becoming whatever you're becoming.
in general yeah,
It's hard.
yeah,
You know, you've
yeah.
gone from primary school, secondary school, which was, whew, and then you're physically changing. You know, you're going through all this, like, mentally, emotionally. Who am I going to be in this world? The person who's guided you through it has now left you.
Yeah.
And it was only like 3 or 4 months later, my brother died as well. The one that I met at 10, the one that was surprising us with his family. And so that was confusing as well. And then I was with my dad, and my dad didn't really understand me. I didn't really understand him. You know, my dad always says, oh, you know, I raise and grow up all these children. But I was like, really and truly, no, you had like really strong women who did the heavy lifting, and you was just there. Sorry to say, but you weren't. I thought this is the first time my dad really had to actually raise a child, and he didn't always understand what he was doing. And I feel like we definitely had to lean on each other a lot, but like I definitely feel like I took a lot of the brunt of that. And my mum's first daughter, she's disabled, so she's deaf and autistic. So I was like a carer to her. I'm also caring for my dad. And like, you know, just like, and I'm a child in this. You got to remember, I'm 13.
You're still growing yourself. You're
Still
still
growing.
getting to know the world. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of turbulence. But in and amongst that, I had the arts. I had, you know, I used to go to like Saturday clubs. I go to after school clubs. It was my escape. It was the thing that I looked forward to doing and I was good at doing. And that's how I think I coped at the time, because my real life was just so mad. So anything that I could take on acting wise was not as crazy as what was actually happening in real life. So I was like, okay, cool. And also as well, I think when you go through a loss like that and you survive it, nothing in life's ever as scary. So when I make big decisions or risky decisions in some people's eyes, for me, the worst has already happened. So
you've already gone through.
Might as well go for broke.
You know, the
Do you know what I mean?
worst. So yeah.
And see what happens. So yeah.
You know, Devon, you say, you know, children are very resilient. I look at you and I still see someone who's very resilient, you know, like what you've achieved, the person who you are, like, and because I know you personally, you're a lovely person, very loving.
Thank you.
Like, people who go through stuff like, some people who go through stuff like that, losing someone very close to them, they can make it turn them cold, like a cold person, or it can shut them off from the world, or maybe their dreams just seem too, life just seems too foggy. What would you say to someone who has either recently lost someone or has lost someone very important in their life, and they're struggling in life and also in like their dreams as well?
I would say grief is very personal, and there is no blueprint as to how to do it. Everyone's grief is completely different, and I feel like you should grieve how you see fit. So if you need to sit in a room for a couple of days and close the curtains, you do that. If you want to go out on top of a mountaintop and scream, you do that. Whatever you feel, it's not for anyone else to dictate how, or even people like, oh, she should not be over it by now. Excuse me, that's not how it works. Do you know what I mean? You don't get over anything, you learn to live with it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Especially a big loss, like a parent or a sibling or a close friend.
It's been 18 years for both my mum and my brother. I don't get over it. I still feel the same as it happened yesterday, but I've learned to live with it. I've accepted that they're both no longer here. But you never get over it. You just get better at dealing with it. Alicia Florrick said that, The Good Wife.
Wow,
literally,
nice.
I always remember that. I remember when the woman asked her how to do it, she goes, it doesn't get any easier. You get better at dealing with it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what it is.
And that's real though, because the thing is, if someone said to me, oh yeah, I'm over it now, it's like,
no.
But how can you be over it? Someone who's had such big memories in your life, and when we have people in our lives, our identity becomes like merged with them 100%. And mixed, you know.
100%.
It's like you lose a bit of yourself when you lose someone very close to you, especially your mum who carried you for 9 months, and you know.
100%.
But Devon, you said earlier that your dad made the impossible possible. You have made the impossible possible, you know, to maneuver through and achieve with such experiencing such a big loss and pain and with your brother as well. That must have been very hard, especially like back to back.
Yeah.
That's a lot to deal with for a 13-year-old.
And confusing as well, because like, so my mum was ill and obviously she died when we was expecting her to die, and then my brother committed suicide. So that was like, I'd never experienced that before. So I didn't know much, and this is 2005 when he died. So things like mental health weren't spoken about as they are today. I mean, it's great that people were very open about it, but back then it wasn't the same.
Yeah,
It wasn't the same. And yes, I didn't understand it, and I was very angry for a long time. I was like, what a selfish thing to do, like how could you do that? And it's only when I went through my own mental health struggles that I started to understand, oh okay, this is real. Like, do you know what I mean?
Did you learn compassion for your brother
100%,
as well?
100%.
Yeah.
And then when I heard more stories as I got older about him, he'd been suffering for a while, but obviously unbeknownst to me, I was only a child, so I guess people having conversations but not really including me. But yeah, it just made me understand him so much better, and I really wish that I had opportunities to speak to him more. That's my only thing, because obviously when someone goes like that, they're just ripped from your life, isn't it? You don't really, I mean, there's never enough time. Let's just be real in life.
Yeah, I know.
Even if you live to 101, you're still gonna feel like I want to.
You're still gonna say, "Oh, I want another year."
There's never gonna be enough time. But it's just when it goes in that way, it's just there's so many unanswered questions, and you're just like, I don't understand it. And I'm a very logical thinker, so that was hard when you don't understand.
That is hard.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just got to accept. And no matter what you do, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. That's hard.
Wow. And like having like learning to have peace with that. Would you say you have peace about it now?
I do have peace with it. It's a good question. I don't know. I've accepted it, but do I have peace with it? I don't think I do. I don't think I ever will. I don't think I'll ever get over it or understand it 100%. I've accepted it because I surrendered to things that I can't control. But does it sit well with me? No. Will I ever be fully okay about it? No. Will I ever get over it? No. Both of them. No, I will never. Do you know what I mean? But I've accepted that that's also a part of the process for me. And that's okay in the sense of I can still thrive and live my life, but I've also accepted that that's never going to be resolved for me.
Especially two people, like you, that's your brother and your mom, two people that can't be replaced like that, you know.
And I will never, but I've accepted that it's what's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that, Devon. Honestly, thank you. So, Devon, going into something more personal to your achievements now, what has been your proudest moment?
Oh, it's hard, you know, because I'm still learning to take it in. Probably EastEnders.
Wow.
Probably getting EastEnders because that for me was just like a what type moment. Do you know what I mean? And like the way in which it happened as well, like because it wasn't like a direct thing. I was at Holby got axed, and then through that I managed to get to EastEnders. But
and for those that don't know, he's talking about Holby City. Yeah.
Holby City, the
he's
medical
done a
drama.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's a medical drama. But like, and when Holby got axed, that fully blindsided me, you know. Hi. Like I did not see that coming at all. It was so shocking. And I know what's more shocking about that? Just shed some light on that, yeah. So we went to a story conference, like I probably shouldn't be sharing this, but whatever, it happened. So we went to a story conference like maybe like a month or so before the show got axed. So I'm guessing people must have known that this was coming. But you see me, yeah, like I've worked on this, but I'm quite gullible. Tell me the sky is green, I'd be like, really? Do you know what I mean?
Even if it's not screen.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got better. I'm not as, like, when I was younger, it was really bad. But, like, so I'm just, like, potting around in my own little thing, da-da-da. So I'm guessing around me, people probably, like, thinking, oh, my God, it's just coming to an end. But I'm just like, Then, boom, Holby's been taken off air after 22 years. Excuse me?
Wow.
Well, I was like, whoa. Like, I didn't see it coming. But then again, in those moments when you're panicking, great things happen. Because I used to work front of house at a theatre just before I got Holby. So when I left Emmerdale, I went back to my theatre job because I did that whilst I was doing my masters, and I like helped, like, you know, my living and whatever. And it was an easy job. You get paid to sit down.
Wow.
Easy. Do you know what I mean? You get paid to sit down, bruv, and watch Matilda do her thing. Excuse me. It was very easy. Easy money. Like, so I was like stress free. You know, I like jobs, especially when I'm trying to be creative. I like jobs that I can leave the job at the job and not take it home with me. And that was that job for me. But then what happened was it got, obviously the pandemic happened. Then we were furloughed, which I never knew what was until
it happened.
Can you imagine? And then we were made redundant. And literally the day after I got made redundant, I got a job at Holby. And then Holby were telling us, like, literally 9 months later that we're going to be made redundant. I was like, I'm going to be made redundant twice within a year. I don't even know what the word redundant means. But this is happening to me again. And then boom, I got EastEnders. So, which is like the lifelong dream. So sometimes you go through that really painful L, and then boom, a next opportunity comes. And, you know, I never foresaw that happening. But yet it was the best thing to happen.
It was the best thing to happen. And
at the time.
Imagine, so sometimes we can get, when we're experiencing those hours, obviously, let's be real, it doesn't feel nice. It feels, it makes you feel like, who am I? It just makes you feel horrible inside out. Yeah. But actually, there's a reason for everything. I believe anyway, 100%. And I feel like that's preparing you for the next thing. So never give up when you're experiencing those hours. If anything, you just have to keep pushing further and going. You know, keep going hard. Because imagine if you had lost hope, Devon, you could have been like, when this EastEnders opportunity came up for you, you could have still been like, oh, you know, and then you would have got the opportunity and maybe wouldn't have performed as best as you should have, but you know, you performed positively and you went for it in spite of what you experienced. You know,
cheers, and I appreciate that, but it's, you know, it changes you. Because at that moment, it was like, do or die. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, do or die. Get rich.
Right? 100%. 100%. Do you know what I mean? Especially because like, at the time, pandemic, there was so much uncertainty in the world anyways. And then, so you had to level up mentally.
Yeah.
You know really what I mean? Because there was no guarantees during that time.
It's true. Like, literally no job was secure in during the pandemic. Even actually going forward now, really nothing's. You just have to keep flying and keep going and getting whatever you can get.
Exactly.
That feels right for you.
And even my secure job at the time, which was the theatre, that was like my security blanket. I always knew, I can go back to that. Do you know what I mean? And get paid to sit down again. But there was no theatre. Theatre had stopped. If anything, theatre took the biggest L, I think, during that time in terms of the arts, because they were the last to go back. Yeah. Because obviously physically they couldn't have all those people in one space. Whereas TV, people started doing social distance filming. Yes. I know EastEnders was quite innovative with how it's shot. And they were the first soap to come back on air after the pandemic or during the pandemic. Yeah. So like theatre really took the hit, and I think it's only now, like 3 years on, they're kind of starting to get the footfall back through the door. Wow. That they had pre-pandemic, so there would that option was no longer there. So then what would I do?
And you had to then like power into your new normal. Like, you could have easily been in your comfort zone and been like, you know, I'm used to this, let me just stick to what I know, even though nothing's coming up or wasn't coming up at the time. Yeah, you know. But actually, you said, you know, let me step out of my comfort zone and do, you know, what's being presented to me. I
mean, it's always the way, either incredibly stupid or incredibly smart.
You're very resilient, Devon. You're very, you know what? And I'm a big believer in this. I feel like your childhood experiences do prepare you for, like, it does set you up for your life. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when you meet someone who's gone through, like, a lot in their childhood, and when you see them being resilient to, like, in adulthood like yourself, I feel like that those experiences did make you to an extent, you know, as well as the right decisions you chose, because obviously not everyone chooses certain decisions, you know. So 100%. You chose that, and also, you allowed yourself to be trained in that. It's like, you know, what could just come to mind, you know, when someone's preparing someone to go into war, they put them through like
bare madness.
They have to go through a lot, like, and you know, be in very unlivable conditions, because they know when they go onto that war battlefield, it's not gonna, it's do or die. But they prepared them for it. So obviously when they're experiencing it, it's not as traumatic, even though it obviously is, but you know, it's not as traumatic because they've been conditioned.
But I also think as well, I have this thing where I'm always like, all of what you said, but also, as long as I know that I have what I need, I'm okay.
That's powerful.
Like, I've got a roof over my head, I've got food in my stomach, you know, as long as I have the things that I need and I can get by, you know, especially like, you know, working class South Londoner. I was born in a credit crunch. So when these people crying in 2008, I was like, bruv, we done been in a credit crunch. You know, toothpaste ain't finished yet.
I know you're cutting it.
Excuse me. You put water in the kettle, you shake. You get the bun dregs. I know. You got ketchup. Do you know what I mean? So when you live like that, you know, when corned beef and rice can stretch for how many days, and you can make fried dumpling, excuse me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've not gone without. You know, I'm not saying I'm going to live like that forever, but if push comes to shove, I can survive.
Absolutely.
As long as I have what I need, everything else is gravy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you know, Devon, I know you personally. I know some of the decisions you've made, and I've been like, wow, that is bold. And the thing is, you thrived from it. And obviously, I'm not saying not everyone could do that, but I think that's because of your mindset. It is. Yeah. You know, it really is. So,
and having gone through the worst thing, nothing's worse than that, and having what I need, you're calm. Everything else is just a roller coaster.
Oh, thank you, Devon, honestly. So what can we expect, or not so much what can we expect, but where do you want to be in the next 5 years?
Oh, in the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, I'll be 26.
Oh, yeah.
So
26 and young.
What do I see in the next 5 years? I would love to be doing what I'm doing, well, still writing and performing full time. Wow. Like fully full time. I would say I'm 3/4 of the way full time now, but I like to do it fully full time and just go from job to job to job and be, because like, like Naomi Campbell, she described herself as a jobbing model. Okay. And I'm like, you're a whole Naomi Campbell, and she's like, no, I'm a jobbing model. I'm you know, I go out, I book jobs, and I go from job to job to job. So basically, she never takes it for granted of where she is. Wow. She's like, I still got to do. She's still what I have to do to get to, even though I'm like, you're a whole Naomi Campbell. So for me, I want to be a jobbing actor, writer, and go from job to job. Because that's a blessing in itself. Amazing. To be booked and busy is a blessing. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And busy. Right? Because not everybody, some people be booked here and then 5 years later they get booked again. Yeah. And that is that's still a success. Yeah. So, do you know what I mean?
In comparison to some people who haven't maybe had any, or you know. Yeah.
But ideally, you want it to be consistent. Yes. The goal would be for when people be like, oh, I got this great part for you, and I ain't got to step foot in an audition room. Excuse me. That's when you know you made it. You know, when people are writing parts for you and offering it to you
and saying, oh, we've made this character for you in mind,
and you have first refusal.
Yes,
I'm not going to go. Yes. Do you know what I mean? No, thank you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the aim. Yeah. When that day comes,
absolutely.
You and I, champagne showers.
Yes, champagne.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like I would love to be booked, busy, doing work that actually aligns with my core values and what I care about, which is, you know, telling those stories from marginalized communities. People don't always get a say or have a voice. Finding like new stories or new takes on stories. Also like helping to develop new talent.
Amazing.
That's something I'd love to do, and like help people coming up, because one, we need it, and two, I believe that we need to continue to give back. In order for you to receive, you
Agreed.
have to give. Because someone gave to me.
Yes,
Otherwise, I wouldn't be sat here
absolutely.
talking to you now.
It's
Do you know what I
true.
mean?
It's like never forgetting where you came from or
100%.
who has given you that helping hand. It's true.
100%.
Because everyone has, whether they show it or not, everyone's been given help somewhere along the
100%.
line. Yeah.
Even if it's someone saying one
Yeah.
thing or
Exactly.
whatever, it's all influence.
Exactly.
You know? So, yeah, definitely that's where I see myself in 5 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
No, you've got so much ahead of you, Devon. Honestly,
Fingers and toes
like
crossed.
what you've already achieved and what you're going to continue to achieve. I'm so excited for you.
Oh,
yeah,
cute.
and we're excited to see like what's going to be happening next. Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled, guys. No, Devon, thank you so much. Honestly, this was a very touching conversation.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No, and where can we find you on socials?
Oh, he's out here. He's out here. Well, really mainly on Instagram. At It's Me, Devon J. Check me out. I'm
Yes,
there.
check him out, guys. You know, you'll be seeing his beautiful headshots that I see.
Shout out to Paul.
Oh, did he do your headshots? Amazing. So shout out. But no, thank you for having us, Devon. Thank you for watching, guys, and listening once again. And you can find us on @_ponder, and that with Saffron, and that's on Instagram, to stay tuned and to stay in the loop about what interviews we have coming up next, especially to watch and to see Devon's journey. So thank you, guys, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.